Welcome to Book to Blueprint, where powerful books become practical blueprints for real life. You do not need more information, you need execution. This is Book to Blueprint. Okay, so let's talk about Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. You probably heard of it. It's one of the most controversial and influential books on strategy ever written. But here's the thing. Reading it, that's the easy part. Actually applying it in your life, that's a whole different ballgame. So that's what we're going to do here. We're not just going to summarize it. Nope. We're building a practical, actionable blueprint that you can start using like today. This quote right here, this is basically the key that unlocks the entire book. What Greene is saying is that power dynamics, they're everywhere. You can't escape them. They're just a part of life. And trying to ignore that fact, that's just naive. You end up being what he calls a denier or a bungler, someone who gets played because they refuse to see the game. So the only real choice you have is how you engage with it. Are you going to be skillful, like an artist, and navigate these currents with some real strategy? All right, so to turn that whole philosophy into something you can actually use, we've broken this blueprint down into 6 key parts. First, we'll cover the core outcome, what we're actually trying to achieve. Then, the big idea behind it all. After that, we'll look at the operating system, the core principles. Then we get into the really practical stuff, a step-by-step implementation plan, the required recurring behaviors to make it stick, and finally, the common mistakes you absolutely need to avoid. Okay, first up, the core outcome. So after all is said and done, after all the strategy and the observation, what's the actual end game? What are we really aiming for? Well, it's actually pretty simple. The goal is to master the game of power itself. When you really start applying these laws correctly, you begin to see, you see the hidden currents in every single social situation. We're talking about everything from the office to your personal life. This isn't about using brute force to get what you want. No, it's about using strategy. And when you use strategy, you face a lot less conflict, a lot less resistance. Ultimately, what it comes down to is this: gaining real, actual control over your own path in life. All right, next section. Before any of these laws can actually work for you, you've got to install a new mindset. It's like a software update for your brain. And this is the big idea that holds up the entire book. You have to start seeing power for exactly what it is, a game. And that brings us to a really crucial concept, this idea of an amoral game. See, the book argues that power itself doesn't have a moral compass. It's not good, it's not evil, it just is. So if you want to play this game effectively, you have to stop labeling things as good or bad. Instead, you've got to learn to analyze the effects of people's actions. Think about it. Somebody's intentions, they mean nothing if their actions end up creating total chaos. And it's exactly that kind of cold, objective analysis that's going to give you your strategic edge. Okay, so if power is a game, then think of the 48 laws as its operating system. They're like the source code that's running in the background of pretty much every social interaction you'll ever have. Once you learn them, you can finally see how the whole program works. It's like seeing the matrix. Let's just take a look at a few of these core principles, these strategic tools in your new toolkit. You've got Law 1, never outshine the master. That's all about making your bosses and superiors feel secure, never threatened by your talent. Then there's Law 3, conceal your intentions. This one's about keeping people guessing. If they don't know what you're really up to, they can't prepare for it. Law 4, always say less than necessary. The less you say, the more profound you seem, and the less chance you have of saying something stupid. And how about Law 25, recreate yourself? This is a big one. It's about taking control of your own image, defining who you are, instead of just letting other people do it for you. You can see how each one of these is a very specific tool for a very specific situation, right? And that brings us to Law 5, a law that Greene himself calls a cornerstone of power. See, your reputation isn't just something passive, it's an active force. It walks into the room before you do. It can intimidate people for you. It can literally win you battles before you even have to fight them. But if that reputation gets damaged, man, you become vulnerable from everywhere. It is the one asset you have to protect with your life. Okay, so enough theory, let's get into execution. How do we actually take all these principles and turn them into a step-by-step plan? Let's say you're starting this journey today, right now. What are your very first moves? Here it is, your 4-step starting plan. Step 1, you have to master your emotions, period. An emotional response is the single biggest barrier to power. Reactivity is the enemy. Step 2, Become an obsessive observer of the game. That means you watch what people do, not what they say. Ignore their justifications, watch their actions. Step 3. Start learning indirection. This means you practice planning your moves in ways that are not so obvious. Be so. And finally, step 4. This one's huge. You have to analyze your past mistakes. Go back, look at your past failures, but this time, look at them through the lens of these 48 laws. Really understand why you failed, and then vow not to repeat those same mistakes. You build your new strategy from that hard-earned knowledge. All right, next up, it's super important to understand that mastering these laws isn't something you do once. It's a daily practice. Power is a skill, just like any other, and you hone it through consistent, reoccurring behaviors, things you do over and over until they become second nature. So to make this stuff real, you gotta track it. If you don't measure it, it doesn't exist, right? This is exactly how you turn all this theory into actual habits. So, for example, to practice concealing your intentions, try this. Every day, journal about one single interaction where you successfully held back your true purpose. For saying less than necessary, make it a little game. In every single conversation, mentally give yourself a point every time you resist the urge to say more than you need to. And then, once a week, do a reputation audit. Sit down and honestly review your public image. How are your recent actions being perceived by the people around you? You see? This is how you take these big abstract ideas and forge them into real ingrained skills. Okay, we're at our final section, the common mistakes you need to avoid. Because honestly, knowing what not to do is often just as important as knowing what to do. And the difference between an amateur and a master in this game, it usually comes down to just avoiding a few of these critical, super common mistakes. And when you look at it, the difference between the amateur and the master is it's night and day. The amateur, they make the classic move of responding emotionally. They show their whole hand. They lose control. The master's play, on the other hand, is to maintain complete emotional control. They see the situation for what it is, objectively, and act with reason. Here's another one. The amateur move is trusting friends blindly. They completely ignore how familiarity can breed envy and even betrayal, which, by the way, is exactly what Law 2 warns you about. But the master, they utilize strategic alliances. They understand that real, lasting loyalty is built on mutual self-interest, not just warm, fuzzy feelings. I think ultimately it boils down to this. A master sees the world exactly as it is, not as they wish it would be. And that brings us right back to this central question, the one this entire blueprint forces you to answer. The game of power is always being played, all around you, right now. There's no opting out. So the only thing left for you to decide is what your role is going to be. So, based on your actions, your awareness, your strategy, are you a player who actually shapes the game, or are you a pawn, just being moved around the board by somebody else? If you have a book in mind that should be added to our list, comment below. If this blueprint helped you, subscribe, like, and build with us. More blueprints are coming. Stay intentional, stay consistent. We are doing this one book at a time. And remember, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So share this with them and grow together. Real progress becomes stronger when it is shared. Build your life one blueprint at a time. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you do.